Most people steal a plane to escape something. Richard Russell stole a plane to escape himself. And while the headlines called him a thief, I call it a warning. A warning about what happens when we keep telling men to man up instead of speak up.
Yeah, and here's the part no one wants to admit. If Richard had been a woman, we've seen documentaries, mental health campaigns, and candlelight vigils by now. But because he was a man, his pain became a meme. His death became entertainment.
This episode isn't about a plane thief. It's about the reality that men are dying in silence. And society's response is to hand them a pamphlet and hope they don't bother us again.
The Sky King wasn't just one man's story. He's the tip of an iceberg we refuse to see. And if we don't start talking, more men are going to crash without ever sending a mayday. Welcome back to Sky King, The Last Flight. Hey, before we get started, make sure and smash that like button, subscribe to Outspoken, share the show with everyone you know, and hit the bell icon to get updated when we update new episodes.
So, Jay, let me ask you this. Let's talk about the man behind the headlines. Who is Richard Russell? Before the incidents of August 10th of 2018, Richard Russell was just a 29-year-old married man that worked at Horizon Air Ground Service at SeaTac, which is Seattle-Tacoma Airport. He was well liked by his peers, right? He was married. He had absolutely no criminal record. But on the date that I just mentioned, he stole a Bombardier Q400. He took off without clearance, and he flew for 75 minutes, bro. 75 minutes in the air, doing some crazy barrel rolls, some loops, some steep turns. This guy had no formal pilot training, just video game experience and some self-teaching. Right? And he said this while they were talking to ground control, was talking to him for 75 minutes. That's what he told them. It's like, hey, could this do a barrel roll? And how this stands out, Jay, for me, is the fact that you're talking to this guy 75 minutes before he takes his own line. For 75 minutes, we don't get that experience, right? We don't get to, most times you get a letter that's left behind, maybe, because most of the time when men happen to do this, there is no indicators. We use him all the time, but Robin Williams, great comedian, always laughing, always joking, no clue, absolutely no clue what his plan was. And we hear that about most men, that all you know is like, he's just gone. Kurt Cobain, all these other people that are just like gone. It's important to understand that Richard Russell, we had 75 minutes of conversation with him. And I think that's important. If you guys look up his conversation he's having with ground control, he doesn't seem like he's disconnected. The guy seems like he's out there having fun, doesn't. Right? Yeah. And he sounds like he's out there just, hey, I'm going out with a bang. And I don't mean going out, like just, hey, I'm going to get her busted for this. I'm just going to go have fun and go out, because he says, hey, this is like I'm gone, huh? I'm like a lifer for this, or I'm going to jail or something like that, because he's looking at he's looking at consequences while he's up in the air, right? Like he's talking about, am I going to go for prison forever or whatever? I can't verbatim remember what he says. He's out there doing these crazy things and he's having conversations. So it's important that we understand what was in his mind. Like, what was he thinking?
I got a lot of people that care about me, and it's going to disappoint them to hear that I did this. I would like to apologize to each and every one of them. Just a broken guy, got a few screws loose, I guess. Never really knew it until now. I'm going to land it, in a safe kind of manner. I think I'm going to try to do a barrel roll, and if that goes good, then I'll just go nose down and call it a night.
Well, Rich, before you do that, let's think about this. I got another pilot coming up, Pilot Joel, here in just a minute or two, I hope, and we'll be able to give you some advice on what to do next.
Just kind of lightheaded, dizzy. Man, and the sights went by so fast too. I was thinking like, I'm gonna have this moment of serenity, I'll be able to take in all the sights. There's a lot of pretty stuff, but I think they're prettier in a different context.
You guys heard a snippet from part of that conversation he had. He said some key things, and I think it's important, Jay. And he said this joking around. The guy mentioned, hey, you want to be careful when to land the plane and make sure no one gets hurt. And he goes, I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want you to whisper sweet nothings into my ear, And so how many times have we said that? Men have said that. just whisper sweet good things in my ear. We
Yeah.
joking around.
Right.
But he said something after that. And again, hear his tone, right? You guys heard it. It's like, I'm just a broken guy, got a few screws loose, I guess. And one of those loops, he did this crazy loop that he came like 10 feet off the water. Like he completed a loop in this Bombardier, and 10 feet off the water, there was jets that were following him because, after 9/11, they scrambled jets because they don't know what the intent is of that person. So
Right.
they were following him, and they were responding to traffic control saying, this dude just did a loop and came like 10 feet off the water.
Right. And that was an actual one of the pilots, one of the jet pilots that said that. So eyewitness account of this guy in this plane. And you imagine, think about being the pilot of the jet aircraft, right? Your whole thing is to make sure that he doesn't head towards a civilian area or obviously buildings or anything like that, because that's their major concern now.
Correct.
And to be watching this guy kind of buzzing around and being very nonchalant, casual in conversation. And they're trying to, hey, don't hurt anybody. And hey, buddy, we just need to land this plane. And he's trying to make light of it. He's like, hey, listen, he doesn't say it outright, but it's like, listen, I know I'm going to dive this thing in the ground, and this will be my last words that you ever hear.
Yeah.
Before that, I'm a regular dude, and I just want to talk to somebody. And I think that's part of the thing. You mentioned Robin Williams a little bit ago.
Yeah.
And he has that quote that he said, I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it feels like to be absolutely worthless. And they don't want anyone else to feel like that. And so this guy he's up there, knows how he feels like garbage all the time, probably. And who knows what reasons.
The guy was married. The guy was married. They had no kids and no record. And that's the crazy thing is like, no one really knows that he was depressed. When he was doing those crazy maneuvers, and I'm getting this because he never said it like exactly that was his intent. But in doing those maneuvers, his intent was he was, an engine was going to fail. He was going to crash. He wasn't going to be successful. The plane was going to go dive, and boom, he's out of control. But in that, when he did that loop that just got him cleared, he says, I was kind of hoping that was going to be it, And it wasn't. He continued on, and he kind of laughed about it. And no way did he sound depressed. And ultimately, he crashed at Ketron Island, and which is an unpopulated island, just a wooden island, and just ending his own life. Jay, that's the thing, is that there's no signs. Like if you look back, a lot of these times, like again, men are going through these hard times, and no one really pays attention. Now, could it be a little bit our fault because we were kind of trained as children not to react to emotions, not to feed too much out there, not to be vulnerable? I don't know. But the point is, like, how many times do we call a friend and say, hey, how you doing? You doing all right? You need anything? Or just have a conversation. We tend to, men, I feel, don't tend to talk a lot about their problems, but they become recluse. You know what I mean? They kind of start falling behind. They're not hanging out anymore. There are signs, but we write them off like, the dude's probably busy, or, we don't pay attention to those things. And I think that's key. And I think it's very important that the Sky King is a perfect example of how things, the dude, it was crazy because he clocked in, and I think like 6 hours later, he took the plane. It wasn't like immediate. No one knows what happened during that time, though, when he checked in until when he took that plane. I mean, what was he dealing with? Financial issues? We don't know. It was never really talked about because the focus was what happened, right? Something so close from 9/11, people are going to say like, oh my God, what is Horizon doing with their planes that they're not secure, that ground control people could just take ground people could take their planes. That was a focus, not the fact that this man was battling his own demons. And again, men's health is no joke, and it's an unseen battle. We don't wear our emotions on our shoulders, and versus women who are very vulnerable. They talk about it. You start talking about something maybe that they're going through, and you hit a certain soft spot, and they start crying, and right away there's a problem, right? Men don't do that. Men instead, they'll go out to the garage and start fixing something, or playing with something, or drinking, or we don't see it, or we write it off as normal. It's like, oh, he likes going to the garage, or he likes having his drink out there and on the couch, or we always excuse things when it comes to men's mental health, and that's crazy. I think that we need to start paying a little bit more attention to what's going on. So, like I said, it's an unseen battle. Men are 3.9 times more likely to die from self-harm than women, and that's a big number. Jay, do you know that? That's a huge number. In 2023, 79% of all self what's the word we could use here, because that's another thing, we can't even use
self-eradication
words. Yeah, that's crazy that they can't even allow us to talk about this. But anyway, 79% of all self-eradications in the US were men. Let's take that number for a moment, just a brief moment. It is simple math, right? We've all done simple math. So we take 100% of self-eradications, 100%, right, in the US, 100%, 79% of that, 79% of that is men. How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think one of the things that's really created that over the years is the feminist movement, because there has been the demasculization of men, right?
Mm-hmm.
So over time, women have not only been taught to, embrace your womanhood even more and more and more, but now jump into a little bit of the men's side of thing. You're powerful and all this kind of stuff, it's the opposite with men. You're toxic masculinity. So toxic masculinity is what? Just men being themselves, acting a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if you told women, you need to stop being crazy once a month, right? Every time you're on your cycle or whatever. Yeah, your toxic femininity. And we would be looked at like, well, that's pretty heartless and everything. You don't realize what we go through. Well, you don't realize what men go through either, as far as everything goes, And so now it used to be understood that guys handle things differently and everything. Mm-hmm. Now you're not supposed to. Now you need to, suck all that stuff up, and you need to get out there with your feelings. But guys don't identify with feminine outlets for their feelings, right?
Correct.
They don't identify with that. So it doesn't make any sense. It'd be just like telling women, hey, you need to treat your feelings more like men. Well, they wouldn't understand that either. So this whole thing,
they call us insensitive for that. They would say, how dare you,
and you're insensitive. But it's okay to do that to men, because men are, dogs, stupid idiots, and they're just
worthless.
They're worthless. Yeah. And they're just toxic in all of their belief systems and everything else. So,
well, let me ask you this, Jay. How often do you seriously go to the doctor?
As little as possible.
Right. So we don't necessarily go to doctors for little things, right? We start feeling sick. We'll open up that medicine cabinet and say, like, what could I take? What could I take?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take this cough syrup. I'll be good.
And even if that, I have to be pretty far down the road before I crack a bottle or take a pill of anything,
Right. Even headaches, common headaches. We don't take nothing. We're like that. No. I just need to sleep more next time or whatever.
Right.
We write them off.
Drink more water, whatever.
Correct. So from the get-go, men are, and I think we attribute that to like a lack of time. Look, I don't have time to go to the doctor. If I go to the doctor, that means I'm not working. If I'm not working, that means I'm not making money for the family or for whatever. That's just our mindset.
Self-reliance too. Men believe in self-reliance, right? We can build everything on our own. We can fix our own car. Right. We can, do our own things.
Yeah, well, some can't, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great example right there, is that as time goes on, think about the new generations of kids and what are they, and I'm talking about males, right? Boys, mm-hmm. What are they having problems with? They're having problems with depression, right? Anxieties and things like that.
Yeah.
Because these kids are growing up, they don't know how to change their oil on their car. All kinds of things. Women right now, single women have purchased more homes than single men have. Everything is reversing, right? And we're turning men into women and trying to make women be men. Now, we're not holding women back. We're trying to push them forward. Yet we're trying, in order to do that, we've got to hold men back, right? So we've got to feminize men, make them feel worthless and all this kind of stuff. So this browbeating that we've had for all these years is finally catching up with us, and we're seeing it. And this gentleman, where this happened, this was in Washington State.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's already kind of a depressed state. There's cloud cover most of the time. It rains a lot. So they already have issues with depression and things like that.
Very liberal.
And then you tack on that where what was this guy's ethnicity?
He was a white guy.
Yeah, so they're not very popular in that part of the country either, right?
Well,
so,
you guys aren't popular in any part of the country right now, really.
Yeah, right. You suck everywhere you go.
You guys suck everywhere. Don't blame Washington. You guys suck in 49 other states too.
Yeah.
Just kidding, folks. I love you.
Now you compound all this kind of stuff, and we don't know what the home life was, right? He didn't have a criminal record or anything like that.
No.
Joe, we know this, and we're from Generation X, right? We're pretty hardy and can stand up to most anything. And if somebody tries to put you down, you're like, brush it off,
whatever.
Get out of here. You've been in a situation where there has been a important female in your life. Now, for you out there, this could be a girlfriend, it could be a wife, it could be a daughter, cousin, aunt, your mom, anybody that constantly, every day of your life, puts you down and says, as a man, you're worthless, you're never going to amount to anything. From a woman, those are the most cutting things that she can say, is that you're not doing. So imagine, and I'm not saying this is what happened with this guy, but imagine if every day he came home from working, maybe he's not making a ton of money or whatever. Who knows? I don't know all the details.
I think he was working there for like 3 years.
Washington, again, not a really cheap place to live. And maybe he was just kind of putting along and she's wanting more, right? Well, I'd love to have another bedroom or another bathroom. And, why is it that you can't get promoted there? Why can't we get another job? Why can't we move? And it's always this, what you're doing for me is not good enough for me.
Yeah. And again, folks, we don't know if that's the case.
We don't know.
We're just saying that
right.
There's variables.
Yeah, and I don't want to. God bless her for everything that's gone on in her life with him passing on. I know this is many years ago, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to her or him or anything like that. This whole thing, we need to understand that there's the possibility that was creeping in on him every day, right? And for you and I, it's different. This guy was 29 years old at that time. Somebody doing that to me constantly, I would just wall up and be like, well, you can just get out of here. If I don't, if you're not happy with me, that's cool. I mean, just move along,
But again,
but not everybody.
It could have been from work too, though. You know what I mean?
Could have been from work. Yeah. There could have been things at work.
And you know how it is. When something like this happens, people ask, "Hey, how was he as a coworker?" All of a sudden, he was a cool guy. He was really nice. But while he was working there, no one talked to him, or maybe they punked him. I don't know.
Right.
There's so many variables to what, or it could have been that he just he maybe was at a point in his life where he thought he shouldn't be. Maybe he thought like, I should be more than this. We don't know what happened, and that's a crazy thing. And back to when I asked you earlier, like if you go to the doctor, my point was, men are less likely to seek therapy, right? We're not going to go seek therapy if we need it, because most of the time we're going to say to ourselves, we're going to talk ourselves down, like, oh, I don't need therapy. That's for the weak. I got control of this. I got this, right? Many don't seek any help until they hit that crisis point.
That's toxic masculinity, Joe.
Here we go. That's not even a word, bro. And so when they hit that crisis point, do we seek help then? No, we do things like this, right? And Robin Williams, right? He had a great life. The guy had money. He was loved throughout the industry. His wife was very supportive, 100% supportive of him. The guy had a great career. But then all of a sudden he got a diagnosis of this horrible disease that he got. And we don't know what's going through his mind. Was he maybe thinking, I don't want to live that way. I don't want to be having this disease. I don't want to forget who I am. I don't want to forget my memories. I want to have my memories like I know them now. And that's it. I mean, we don't know how much fear people get when they get a diagnosis of you have Parkinson's or you have, early stage Alzheimer's. There's so many factors behind this that we're not able to understand the human psyche in that way, and in receiving or able to accept something like that. Because imagine we're living our life, bro. We're doing things. We're going places. We're enjoying. One day you don't feel good. You go to the doctor because you're like, man, I have this thing that's just I keep forgetting something. Boom, boom, and then boom, it hits you. They hit you. Hey, bro, just so you know, it seems like you got early onset of Alzheimer's. What? Like your life has just done a loop-de-loop, bro.
Yeah.
You have no idea now how to react to that. Like, how much time do I have? I don't know. It's just going to gradually going to start. You like, I don't want to be around my kids, bro, not know their names or I mean, that's crazy stuff. And so, how we handle those things are crucial,
Yeah.
right? And as men, we're like, I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna do this on my terms. I'm not gonna wait till I forget my kids' names or when I see someone I don't know who they. Nope, I'm done. Going to the forest in my wheelchair, drinking my life away. I'm done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we make our decisions because we decide that. But the problem is that we've created this stigma and man up culture silence men, right? We're shut up and keep going, right?
Right.
But if you listen to Richard's conversation to ground control, the guy was funny. The guy was joking around.
He
the
was.
guy, right? Like the dude was like, if you hear the entire conversation, the guy was like, "Nah, I've had no training. I do this all, I just do this on video games, right?" So the guy's a gamer, right? So, but that's the classic mask for deep emotional pain, right? We cover ourselves with that pain, and so we don't know it. We don't know it until it's too late. Like, the person knows it, but he's not going to share it. He's not going to talk about it. He's not going to, because like you said earlier, that example, let's say he was getting a lot of pressure from his wife, do better, be better, whatever, boom, boom, boom. He's not going to go to her and now be weak about it. He's not going to go, it's like, oh, I just can't do it, right? He's going to say, I'm going to end it on my terms. I'll show you weak. You know what I mean? Boom.
Yeah.
And those are the things that we have to watch out for, but we don't see those things coming. Why don't we see them coming, Jay? Like, that's the thing, is we don't. In men, we don't see it. Women, all the time. You could tell right away. I was married for almost 20 years. I knew when something was bothering my ex-wife. I knew it. I could see it. I'm like, what's bothering you? Like, I didn't have to have a conversation. I walk in the door and I'm like, what's wrong? Right? And the kids or something, you know what I mean? But I always knew. Or like, if something like, hey, with the house, we've bought a couple homes in our lifetime, and like, hey, well, we're gonna have this problem because now they're gonna increase our points or whatever the case is. We bought down or whatever, and I'm like, we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. And that's where you go to the garage and you're like, how the hell are we gonna do this? And you try to. Because you don't want to stress her out more by you being like, shoot, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, who wants to hear that from a man? Like, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know. Let's figure it out. I don't know. Call your mom.
Yeah, I saw this picture. It was a cartoon, and it showed the difference between men's troubles and women's troubles. And this woman, it shows her, she's got this bag that she's got, and it's got 5 or 6 bricks in it. It's really heavy, and she's sitting there and she's like, honey, I don't know how we can get through this and everything. And he's standing there and you only see the one side of him, right? Mm-hmm. And he says, let me take those from you. And he grabs them, and then when he turns to walk away, he's just got 40 bricks on his back already.
Jeez.
And where he's willing to take that away, where the same thing when she asks, hey, is everything okay? He's hiding the bricks from her, right? That he's carrying around. So it's a really good analogy of things, and this mainly goes for heterosexual relationships, but I mean, this can go in many different ways, right? But men don't want to see men from our time, right? And men that identify as man and don't have any kind of weirdness going on. You mean,
if you're not men that identify as men, but real men that are men,
real men, that don't have to identify. You already know what you are, because you've been there since birth. They don't want to see their woman suffer, right? They want to take care of her
or children or family or anybody.
So a really good point to that. So for people that are out there, if they're like, oh, well, that's not true now, this and that. So do you know what the word simp is? S-I-M-P. Mm-hmm. So they call guys that get onto all these social media channels, and all these young girls that are out there, they're paying them all kinds of money. And these girls are getting tons of money from these old guys, right? That aren't married anymore or don't have a girlfriend or anything. And maybe they do, and they're just, doing this on the side too. But they're paying these young girls because they want to feel needed. Think about that. They want to feel needed and that they are contributing to some female's happiness, right? Because their girlfriend or wife or whatever, they can never keep them happy, right? No matter what they did, how much they worked, how much money they spent on them, that was never enough. So, and it's not always about money. It's just all kinds of, well, I mean, have you ever been with a girl and you went on a trip? Doesn't matter where it was. It could be Disneyland or it could be across the street to the park. You go on a trip, and as soon as you get back, what does she say? Gosh, we should go on another trip somewhere else.
Yeah. Nah.
It's always the next,
more.
more.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like that's a bad thing, but a guy is like, oh my gosh, we just did this, and now we got to save, and I got to get more time off from work, and I got to do all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot goes into making things happen and
but
from
here's
screwing
the thing,
in
Jay.
a light bulb to changing the brakes on the car, right? I mean,
here's the thing, and this is a cultural expectation. We're the men, right? We need to be the protector, right?
And that's what's built into us naturally.
Everything that the woman isn't or the children aren't, we're supposed to be. Right,
correct.
We're supposed to be the protector. We're the one that has the patience. We're the one that needs to know how to do that. If not, figure it out. We're everything, right? And as men, we want to absorb that. We want to feel needed, because you're right. Like you made that example earlier about they want to feel needed. But that's part of our psyche. We need to feel like we're worth, that we're needed.
That's toxic in today's society. So there's the problem, is that now guys are going to social media accounts, OnlyFans, all these kind of things, and paying these unknown girls, right? And you see it all the time. What's the feet thing or whatever, where they take pictures and they're paying them. Like this one I saw, and who knows? Could be
I make
true.
good money, man. I'm
making good money. This girl had posted that this guy once a month, man, I can't even fathom this, pays her $7,000 every month to take custom pictures of her feet. Now you would think, wow, this is kind of cool. This girl doesn't have to do much and this and that, but what is going on in that dude's mind? So there's a couple things there. Either he's a complete sicko, right? Or he is so desperate to have attention from a female that he can take care of her and do things for, that he's willing to stoop to this level, right? And pay for feet pictures.
Something like that, I would say is a sicko. But
I would say so too.
But I think.
But was the guy in the plane a sicko too?
Well, why is it? But here, there's a big difference. So the guy that asking for feet pic in a certain way versus the guy who just stole a plane because, if we look at it symbolically, from that perspective, the guy took a plane because he wanted to escape whatever he was going through. Right. Let's look at some of that symbolism behind it. Is that I'm taking this plane, and I'm free to do it. Right. In the air, he did all kinds of crazy things, all kinds of crazy maneuvers that he couldn't do on walking around in his normal day life. He was free to do them, right? He wasn't expecting to come out of those things, but he made it happen. He did things that professional pilots could not do or would not do, right? Because they limit themselves to their ability or to the ability of that aircraft. Right. And this guy gave zero cares. He was like, watch me do this barrel roll. Yeah. Watch me do this loop. And he successfully did it.
Because I know I'm not going to land this plane. So
right. Correct. And the guy even knew, was like, I thought that was going to be it, but apparently not, right? Like he kept going. And here's the thing, as a symbol, as being, and they gave him this title, the Sky King, right? But the reality of things is the internet fascination of tragedy, of things like that, they turn that into entertainment. Like, oh, that's pretty cool, and things like that. And it's because of things like that, we keep missing the mark on impacting or making known or affecting men's mental health, right? The danger of romanticizing instead of learning from the story. We're missing the point. And as society, we're just so social media driven that we want likes, we want this, and even tragedies. We talked about this before. Even tragedies are not tragedies anymore. They use them on social media to get points, to get fame, to get their money, to get monetized. I remember a time, Jay, when it was the thing to do was to mourn in silence, to mourn in peace, to mourn like away from society. Now people are putting it on social media like it's a trend, right? It's just it's crazy with just how this man's crazy way of self-eradicating himself, gained popularity to where he's like it's like folktale now, right? Oh, the Sky King, absolutely. And if Richard could charm an air traffic controller while slowly dying inside, how many men around us are doing the same thing right now? How many men are charming other men? And I don't mean charming like romantically. Let's this is a straight program, guys. I mean, like, how many more men are masking their issues around us, right? I mean, you and I, we have a very, very close friend circle, right? It's mine is just you. That's about it. And so, we have good friends. I have good friends in Michigan. I have good friends in California, but we don't socialize like you and I. So our level of interaction with them is not as deep as yours and ours, right? We have a different kind of level of confidence now, especially now with our our travels in Christianity are so much more different, and I think that separates even more us from our other friends is the fact that we are traveling in a different direction and a different path, and so how many more Richards are out there? How many more Russells are out there that are going through this thing, that are masking it, that are being joking around, and inside they are slowly giving in to ultimately their self-eradication? How many times do we see that? Again, women, it's a given. They're going to tell you. They're going to clue you in. And even if you're one of those guys that are very, very slow, they will clue you in that they're having a bad day. They will clue you in that they're going through something. They will clue you in that things are happening at work, and that Sally and that girl was giving her issues today, right? For those of you from Gen X, that was a song reference. But you got it. But there's just so many things happening that girls do to tell us, because we're slow. Let's admit it. We're a little bit slow when it comes to, because again, we don't read emotions, man. We toss them aside because it's an inconvenience. So sometimes we can't read the emotion coming from our significant other, so they have to throw clues in there. That's what they do, And if ultimately if we don't pick them up, it's like, you are so insensitive. Don't you see I'm going through something? Well, no, I just saw you come in from Macy's with 15 bags. I just thought you were going through a shopping spree.
Yeah,
that's how I express myself.
Yeah,
but
emotional shopping.
Yeah. We do emotional drinking, right? But again,
or eating.
Oh, here we go.
Get out of town,
bro. That's not a trauma for us, bro. That's a joy. That's what gets us out. That's what gets us out of that pit. But the point is, the Sky King, like many others out there, creates a symbol for us, but we only entertain it for the moment. Robin Williams, great actor, blah blah blah. All these little memorials come up, little videos, and they're like, oh, it's so cute, and then they're gone, forgotten about, right? In 2 weeks, even less, we're gonna all forget about Ozzy Osbourne too, right? Everything, all these things are just gonna be happening. People forget, and at the end of the day, we might forget about the Sky King. We might forget about Ozzy. We might forget about Robin Williams. We might forget about Kurt Cobain. We might forget about all these people. But the problem still lies. And I just brought Ozzy because he's just not too recently passed away. Not that he did any self-eradication. But the point is that all this will go away, will phase out at one point or another, like the Sky King did. But the problem still continues. We still are not dealing with it the way we should. And we're still not addressing it. And we're still following cultural expectations for men. And that is, I don't want to hear your emotions. I want to hear how you're going to fix this. So we talk about mental health for kids. We talk about it for women. We talk about it for veterans. And as we should always talk about mental health because it's important. But when it comes to men, the conversation stops. Go get help, right? No campaigns, no outreach, just silence, and silence kills.
If we keep ignoring the problem, there will be more Richard Russells, more stories that end in a smoking crater instead of a second chance. Men's lives are not expendable, and if you think they are, you're part of the problem.
It's time we stop treating men's pain like background noise, because when Mayday call finally comes, it's already too late.
Yep. Well, let's give it up to Mr. Richard Russell for our story today. Sorry that he was going through that and didn't have somebody that he could chit-chat and talk to. So, guys, remember, if you're going through anything, there are a bunch of help helplines out there, but we're actually a helpline right here. Comment below, email us anytime, and we'd love to talk to you if you're going through stuff. Sometimes, because maybe we're somebody that you don't know, it helps to be somebody that's away from you that doesn't know the rest of your family and all that kind of stuff. Because you don't want the dirt out there or what have you. And I promise you, we would never say anything about anything going on out there. So.
And we're not even therapists. So that's the other thing. I would come to somebody like a friend because like, oh, he's not a therapist. Thank God. Because, let's be honest, Jay, how many
They're
times?
not going to judge you.
Well, and that's the thing though, how many times because I've done it as marriage counseling, you go to talk to somebody and they just don't grasp it. They're following a pattern in a book that was given to them. And like when you're so detached from that person, like, and I get it, you're not supposed to show emotion. You're not supposed to show favoritism. You're just there to be like, okay, well, you're doing this and you're doing this and let's do this. And, it's just so formal. But when you have someone that you could really talk to and really have some feedback, like, hey, I know it seems hard. I've been there. I'm still there. We just got to take it a step at a time, and things always lighten, get better, and so something that they could relate to, and even though some of these therapists probably have their own issues going on, they just I don't know, it feels so distant to me going to a therapist. It's like going to the doctor. You have my medical record, so tell me what's bothering you today. Have you ever felt it, bro? Read my record.
Right,
you have it. Like they make.
What was all that stuff I had to do before this? Why was that even necessary? If you're going to ask me,
I had 150 questionnaires, sir. You did not read any of that.
I mean, none of that. So disappointed.
But don't you see what I'm saying though? Like we fill these out so that there's a little bit better understanding of what you're walking into, and yet you get there and there's 150 other questions. Like,
it's like, so now I'm depressed and angry because he did not listen whatsoever to this whole conversation. Now I know how my wife feels about me.
Yeah, I just did an entire onboarding to your little psych program, and you still don't know me. Get out of here.
I clicked all the little things. I figured out what all the ink blobs were. Right. Yeah. Well, you guys, make sure you definitely take care of one another out there. So before we get out of here, make sure and smash that like button, subscribe to Outspoken, share the show with everyone you know, and hit the bell icon to get updated when we upload new episodes. Again, take care of one another.
And remember, do better, be better.
And as always,
God bless America.
America.
We'll see you guys next week. Have a great week, man.
See you next Tuesday.